Have you ever just felt completely lost trying to understand psychology? I mean, you've got all these famous names floating around. Freud, Skinner, Rogers, and they all have these massive theories about personality. But here's the thing. A lot of the time, what they're saying seems to totally contradict each other. So where do you even start?
Right? It's a total mess. One guy is telling you it's all about hidden conflicts from when you were a kid. Then someone else comes along and says, nope, you're just a collection of behaviors you've learned from rewards and punishments. And then a third person says you're on this incredible journey to become your best self. It feels like you have to pick a side, like you have to join a team. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it entirely?
Let's try thinking about it like this. Imagine human personality is this huge, complex, amazing territory. Every single one of these theories, it's just a different kind of map. You know, a road map isn't righter than a map showing mountains and rivers. They just show you different things, right? They're useful for different journeys. So the real trick isn't finding the one true map. The trick is learning how to read any map someone hands.
So how do we do that? How do we read these maps? Well, it turns out that pretty much every single personality theory can be broken down using 5 key questions. Think of these as the legend on the side of the map, the part that tells you what all the symbols mean. Once you have these 5 keys, you can unlock what any theory is really trying to say. Okay, first things first. Any good map has to answer a really basic question. What is this place actually made of? In personality terms, what are the fundamental building blocks? Psychologists call this structure.
So structure is really all about the what. What are the core components of you? Is personality made of these solid, stable things called traits that you carry around? Is it about how you see yourself? Or maybe it's the unique set of glasses you use to look at the world. The answer a theory gives to this question sets the stage for everything else.
And check this out. You can see just how different those building blocks can be. For a guy like Allport, it's all about traits, like being honest or shy. But for Carl Rogers, the core structure is the gap between who you are right now and the person you want to be. And then there's George Kelly, who says it's all about our mental filters, the constructs we use, like seeing the world in terms of kind versus cruel. That's 3 totally different ideas about what we're even made of.
So if structure is the what, our next stop on the map is all about the why. This is dynamics. In other words, what's the engine? What actually makes your personality go? What are the forces that get you out of bed in the morning and drive you to do things?
Yeah, this is all about the fuel in the tank. What motivates us? Are we being pushed around by these deep, unconscious instincts and anxieties we don't even know about? Or is it something way more positive, like a natural drive to grow and get better? Or, is it just as simple as we do things that feel good and avoid things that don't?
And wow, the answers here are all over the place. For Freud, life is this constant, dramatic battle between our primal urges and what society says is okay. Skinner, on the other hand, says forget all that deep stuff. It's just the environment. We do things that get rewarded. But then you've got Rogers and Maslow with this much more optimistic engine, this idea that we all have an inbuilt-in drive to become our best selves and climb that ladder of needs.
All right, so we've got the what and the why. The next thing our map has to show us is the how. How did we get here? How did our personality develop over time? And, just as crucial, the map needs to show us what happens when we get a little lost.
This part of the map is basically your personality's life story. It's trying to answer how. How did you become you? Is the whole story basically written in the first few years of your life, or is development a journey that continues for your entire life?
And again, the paths on these maps go in completely different directions. Freud famously said the main chapters of your personality are written and sealed by the time you're about 5 or 6. Erickson looked at that and said, hold on, it's a lifelong journey. We face new challenges and grow at every stage. Then the behaviorists chime in and say your personality is just the sum total of everything you've ever been conditioned to do. It's wild how different the timelines can be.
But maps don't just show you the easy roads, they have to show the danger zones too. What happens when our personality leads to pain, to problems, to distress? Every single theory has to have an explanation for this, for what we call psychopathology. And of course, the cause of the problem depends entirely on which map you're reading. If you're Freud, the problem is those old, unresolved conflicts bubbling up from your unconscious. If you're Rogers, it's that painful gap between who you really are and who you think you're supposed to be. For Skinner, it's simple. You just learn the wrong behaviors. And for cognitive folks, the problem isn't out there in the world, it's in here, in our own distorted thinking.
Okay, so what if we're lost? What if our personality is causing us trouble? How does the map help us find a better way? This leads us to our final, and maybe the most important part of the map, the possibility of change.
This is absolutely critical. A good map doesn't just tell you where you are and how you got stuck there. It needs to be a guide. It has to show you a few different routes you can take to get to a better place. And every theory offers its own unique path for therapy and personal growth.
And you can see how the path to change is perfectly tailored to the problem. If the problem is unconscious conflict, well, the solution is psychoanalysis. You got to dig deep. If the problem is learned behavior, then you use behavior modification to learn new, better habits. If the problem is a lack of self-acceptance, humanistic therapy provides that warm, supportive space to grow. It all just clicks.
Okay. Whew. So we have our 5-part map: structure, dynamics, development, psychopathology, and change. We've seen how different theories give wildly different answers to each question. But what's the big deal? Why is having this map so important for you?
Here it is. This is the real magic of the map. The point isn't to prove that Freud was right and Skinner was wrong or anything like that. The point is to give you a tool, a kind of universal translator for psychology that lets you pick up any theory, no matter how weird or complicated it sounds, and immediately understand what it's trying to do.
With this framework, you can cut right through all the confusing jargon. Suddenly, you can compare theories in a way that actually makes sense. You can see their strengths, but you can also see where they might be a little weak. You see how a theory's idea about a problem leads directly to its idea for a solution. It turns this big, confusing mess of ideas into a clear, organized system for understanding people.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. This 5-part map isn't just a tool for analyzing famous psychologists from 100 years ago. You can use it on yourself. Take a look at your own map. Which part are you most curious about right now? Is it the structure, your core building blocks, the dynamics, what truly drives you, or maybe your development, the story of how you got here? Whatever it is, you now have a map to start exploring.